Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. And we had a great press conference for President Trump today talking about protecting D.C., cleaning up the crime and the homeless off the streets of D.C. And this is a mixed bag for the left because their knee-jerk reaction of the left is pretty simple. Disagree with whatever Trump says. If Trump says the sky's blue, it's not. If Trump says up is up and down is down, it's not. So the left, the media, the never Trumpers, they've got that knee-jerk reaction. Then you've got the liberals who have an obsession with criminals. I guess the criminals are their constituents or something, and they have this knee-jerk reaction. The problem that they have is that Washington, D.C. is where, this is covered out of Washington because the president is the president. He's in Washington, D.C. He had this press conference today, and what the president said was very true. The president said this several times. He's in his second term. He has never seen so many members of the media in the White House press room at one time as he saw today. So this is the biggest story, and these reporters that are part of the White House press corps, they hate Trump. They're going to disagree with everything he says, but they live in this and work in this crime-filled city, Washington, D.C., and they know that he's right. So there's a lot of conflict. And during that press conference today at the White House, which was amazing, when President Trump came out and he had Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Judge Janine and a bunch of other people, I told my wife, Kathy, I said, look, it's the Super Friends, right? Didn't it seem like that? It seemed like the Super Friends were coming out to save Metropolis from, all these supervillains that are running through it. And that's what it felt like today. And, this is winning. And it's so nice, isn't it? It's a beautiful thing, and it gives you a great feeling knowing that we have a president of the United States that's not out there covering for weirdos, freaks, and criminals. And these people in the media, many of them have been victims of crime. One of the Fox News reporters, I think she's their congressional reporter. Her name's Aisha. She doesn't like Trump at all. And she said she moved out of D.C. because of the crime. When President Trump started taking questions, Brian Glenn, who was in the front row, he told a story that was shocking. He got robbed at gunpoint in D.C., and he told the story. So they know how dangerous it is. And, if you cannot protect your capital city, what kind of country do you have? Right? What kind of country do you have when people cannot walk safely in your capital city? And what is it with Democrats that, for whatever bizarre reason, makes them want to defend criminals? And Judge Janine, oh man, don't you guys wish Judge Janine was the Attorney General? Holy smokes. Judge Janine, when she told these terrible stories about how they have these liberal judges in that area and they're letting hardcore violent felons go with probation. So the city is under siege. I was shocked, as was President Trump. They have over 3,000 police officers in D.C. now, over 3,000 police officers, and they're not allowed to enforce the law. So he has federalized them. They're under Pam Bondi's authority now. And they have agents from all the federal agents, the Park Service, which has an armed division, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Border Patrol, the DEA, whatever federal agent has guns and badges and enforcement powers, they've moved them into D.C. So they're being overwhelmed. And they have the ATF, all of them, name it. The whole alphabet soup of federal law enforcement are in D.C., and they're going to be arresting people. And they have the National Guard on standby. They'll come in and do whatever it is they got to do if they got to do it. And that's it. That's it. And, you see these you see the crime that's going on there. My goodness. You know, a city like D.C., it's an international city because it's our nation's capital. And important people from all over the world go there, as do Americans. And I have been wanting to go to Washington, D.C. in President Trump's second term, but I haven't because of, what's going on up there. It's a great city. Have any of you been to the Smithsonian museums? They are so beautiful and fantastic. They're all free. You can go there and see our Constitution and Declaration of Independence and the Wright brothers, all that stuff. The Hope Diamond, all that cool stuff. Abraham Lincoln's top hat, it's all there. But you could get killed going there to see it. And it's the coolest place to go in the country, in my opinion, is Washington, D.C. And what's been going on with the Democrats, we had 8 years of Obama, then we had a break with President Trump's first term, then we had the auto pen administration in the last 4 years. And it's not just that they turned a blind eye to criminals. They're actually, the Democrats, to me, seem to be advocates for the criminal. So I'm going to play some audio. If you'd like to call in, please do. If you're watching live on YouTube, the number is pinned in the live chat. It's toll free, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. I'm going to play more of her, but let me just play this one clip. This is Mayor Bowser. Isn't Bowser the character in the Mario Kart video game, Bowser? Well, Bowser's also the mayor of D.C., who's an idiot.
We don't, and I think I speak for all Americans, we don't believe it's legal to use the American military against American citizens on American soil. I'm not a lawyer, and but I think that's a fairly widely held fact.
Okay, the National Guard is who they're talking about, not the regular U.S. Army. And the National Guard is used all the time for all kinds of things when there's violence or a national emergency or a crisis. And this is all of it. This is a crisis. It's an emergency. And having the military around, it can make people think twice. One of the problems they have in D.C., Judge Jogn was talking about this. A lot of these thugs in D.C., they're teenagers. And they know as teenagers with these liberal lunatics that are running D.C., with these liberal lunatic judges on the benches there, that because they're minors, under 18, that they're going to get a slap on the wrist if they do any crime. All right, let's take some calls, find out what you guys think. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Dave from Phoenix.
Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, well, just real quick, touching on what you said. If Trump said to close the border, the liberals would say to open it.
Yeah. But, then maybe Trump should say open the border. Then all the Democrats will agree with closing it, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. But, you're connecting all the dots, with all the coup and everything. And then it's kind of funny. After that Mueller report came out and they found out nothing was going on, you found out Hunter Biden was over there milling around in China. And then, what's the worst thing that could happen to a president? A bad economy. And then all of a sudden, what happens? A pandemic out of the blue kills the economy. It just makes you wonder. And I know that's going to be down the road, but I wouldn't be surprised if a year or two from now you hear something going on with that.
Well, with what's going on in D.C. today, I mean, these Democrats, they actually have to come out in favor of crime. I mean, that's what's still going on. I mean, it's insane. It's insane that they would do that.
The criminals. They just adore criminals for whatever reason. I'll never understand it. But I just wanted to say I love the show, Brian, and good luck with everything, and I appreciate everything you do.
Well, I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Yeah, if you're on hold, stand by. So listen, this is ABC News. This is after the press conference today.
We've been talking so much about the numbers, and usually that's how you play devil's advocate, is you talk about, stats say crime is down. However, I can tell you firsthand here in downtown D.C. where we work, right here around our bureau, just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. One person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped, walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen a block away from the bureau. So we can talk about the numbers going down, but crime is happening every single day because we're all experiencing it firsthand while working and living down here.
Wow. Okay, see what I mean about the Washington media? That's ABC News. So these reporters know it's going on because they are being victimized. This is nuts. When she says jumped, what does that mean? And I'd like to hear the details on that. Was she beaten up like Big Balls was beaten up? I don't know. But that's a lot of crime for one woman to be dealing with, right? There's a murder outside the TV station. She got jumped. Another coworker got the car broken in. That's a lot of crime for one woman like her to be dealing with, isn't it? And that's what these leftists want us to think is a bad thing to stop. When did the Democrats become criminal activists? Have they always been that way? Maybe. I don't know. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Massachusetts.
Hey, Sean, what's up?
You know, it kills me that every time when Trump does something, the left always has to kind of counter attack him, of course, with the numbers of, well, they have to go, no, okay, well, they're saying, well, as soon as he takes charge of D.C. and cleans everything up, the crime rate's down. All of a sudden, the crime rate's down. Yeah. And I just find it funny how they have to play these little games every second, but that's all they have, and it's pretty juvenile.
If the crime rate's down, I mean, I should think about it. Just among these reporters, how much crime, right? She was jumped. Mm-hmm. Another colleague had the car broken into. There was a murder outside the ABC Washington bureau. Brian Glenn in the press conference was mugged at gunpoint. He told the story. I didn't know that. I never heard that story before. No.
Yeah, Brian. I never heard anything about that. And,
no.
He just that's something that wow.
You know how scary that is. Can you imagine being mugged at gunpoint in a town where there's no bail and the judges let juveniles get away with it? So that to walk away from that alive is a miracle.
It's unbelievable, and it makes me wonder now how many of these liberals are actually just hiding their this whole thing from them. How many times has something happened to them? How many of them?
Well, if so many members of the media have been victimized, can you imagine what it's like for the regular people in town?
I mean, so if they're gonna exactly, and
the media people are in the nice parts of town, the exclusive areas. They're not in the ghetto area, and they're having all this happen. It's crazy.
You can only imagine what the regular folk, what they have to deal with in this every single day. They have to go outside and there. That's not how you live anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely disgusting. And then what you're trying to create the new norm, it's not going to work because people have had enough. I mean, we've seen an uprising everywhere. Where people had enough of the crime, and we're starting to see it around different parts of the world too. People have just had enough. And eventually, that's it. Donald Trump's looking at he sees the board, the entire board.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? This is it. I have the executive power. I have the authority. I'm going to take care of this because you know what? This is not how our capital should be.
Well,
it should never have been like this.
There's obviously the crime is so bad. Even the liberal Trump-hating media are reporting on it. And I was talking on the show this morning. There's some things that are universally good. Stopping crime and stopping people from being killed is universally a good thing, And
exactly.
It's an amazing thing what turning points are, and the turning point here was Big Balls from Doge protecting his girlfriend from this rape gang. They almost killed him.
Yeah.
And you saw what he looked like, and and Trump said enough.
And the thing is that. There's people out there on the media that are still trying to. It's amazing how we're seeing some of them starting to come out though now because you can't stop the bleeding once it comes out.
That's right.
And this is it.
This is it. All right. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. You make some good points. Yeah. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can call me. The number is pinned in the live chat. 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, so I thought your calls were screenless.
You're on the air. Do you have something to say about the topic at hand?
I do. I find it fascinating that he's now trying to consider 14-year-olds adults. I wonder how many.
Well, if
he
Judge
lived
Janine
with that.
told the story of I think, was it a 14-year-old she told the story? 14, 15-year-old who shot someone with a gun in the chest on a bus and got probation by some liberal judge. I mean, if you're 14 and you're out shooting people, I think that should be tried as an adult, don't you? You want to treat them as a juvie?
So the girls that he slept with that were 14?
Come on. All right, take care. Oh, my goodness. Goodbye. You're no longer welcome here, by the way. Is that you're no longer welcome. You say something like that, you're history. You creep. Oh, my goodness. What a creep. The voice is creepy enough. Say something so creepy like that. What a jerk. What a jerk. So Mayor Bowser, President Trump has this historic press conference, and then he comes out, or she comes out, Bowser comes out and has this press conference. Let's check some of that out.
I've said before, and I'll repeat, that I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID-era experience during his first term.
Okay, now this here is code. And what it's code for is BLM. She doesn't want to say the BLM summer of violence, so she's trying to say the COVID period.
I've said before, and I'll repeat, that I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID-era experience during his first term. And it is true that those were more challenging times related to some issues.
Yeah, well, my recollection is during the BLM summer of violence, when President Trump came out and condemned it, including putting that 10-year sentence on the destruction of the federal monuments, and he walked over to the church they burned down, right, BLM and Antifa, the liberals were criticizing him for it. Now is Bowser saying that he was right back then?
It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools.
More tools? But then who jumped this ABC anchor? Who robbed Brian Glenn at gunpoint? Who broke into that ABC reporter's car? Who forced the Fox News congressional reporter Aisha to leave the city out of fear? Who were these? If the spike in crime was years ago and crime's down, who were these guys in this rape gang after Big Ball's girlfriend? My goodness, these people think that we're stupid. They're you know what they're trying? They're trying to gaslight. But you know what's scary is before Trump's second term, this crap flew. Let's get back to her. Bowser.
Which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts.
Really? A decrease in crime? Then all these instances that we're hearing about, they're not happening?
We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike.
Oh, my goodness.
This year, crime isn't just down.
You know, I'll tell you, one of the things in the blue cities that's very common is cooking the crime stats, cooking the books of the crime stats. Do any of you guys remember that show, The Wire, years ago? It was an HBO show. It's very good. One whole season about that. It took place in Baltimore. Very good show. You got to watch from the first season. It's a little slow in the beginning. But they had an entire season just about the cooking of the crime stats.
From 2023. It's also down from 2019, before the pandemic.
I don't believe that.
And we're at
Do you
a
believe that?
30-year violent crime low.
I don't believe that. There's a 30-year crime low in D.C.? I don't think so. A 30-year? Now she's really, she's talking about down from, the BLM summer of violence. Maybe. I don't know. Remember when they attacked the White House and injured 80 Secret Service agents? Remember that in Trump's first term? But now she's saying 30 years. How many of you have been to D.C.? I've been to D.C. multiple times, and I've never been afraid. It was never like this. Stop gaslighting people. You know, President Trump should remove her and the entire city council from office. This is insanity.
We're not satisfied. We haven't taken our foot off the gas, and we continue to look for ways to make our city safer. We know, however, as most have heard from the president's press conference, that
doesn't she talk weird? She has strange inflections and talks very slow.
Prerogatives in D.C., unlike anywhere else in the country, including his authority given by our home rule charter to require the mayor, to require me to supply services of the Metropolitan Police Department. And he also has control and the ability to deploy the National Guard.
He sure does, Bowser.
But let me be clear, as our home rule charter is also clear, and the president's executive order restates. Chief Pamela Smith is the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department.
Yeah, and she sucks.
And its 3,100 members work under her direction.
Oh, she
sucks. The Home Rule Charter requires the mayor to provide the services of MPD during special conditions of an emergency.
Yeah, but they're not providing it. You know, when you're the mayor of a city, your primary obligation is to keep the citizens of your city safe. She's failed.
And we will follow the law. Though there's a question about the subjectivity of that declaration.
See what I mean? Subjectivity. She talks she's weird. I've never heard her speak this long before.
Declaration. In fact, the chief has already provided a high-level liaison and point of contact with the federal government and made those initial contacts. The executive order is also clear that the president has delegated his authority to make requests of us to Attorney General Pam Bondi. I have reached out to Attorney General Bondi and hope to schedule a meeting soon.
No, we don't need meetings with you, Bowser. You suck. Your police chief sucks. You all suck. And you have nothing to offer, okay? The Trump team, they have it under control, Bowser.
My message to residents is this. We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia.
That's just what we need. You're doing such a great job as mayor. We want to make you governor of a new state.
We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. Goodness. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past that we're totally surprised.
She's upset at Trump. Do you hear any anger towards the criminals that are raping, mugging, holding people up, shooting people, destroying their property? D.C. was in a better place and was safer when Marion Barry was mayor. And for those that aren't old enough to remember, Marion Barry, he was the mayor of Washington, D.C., and he was in a hotel room, I believe, was it with a prostitute? And he was doing crack, cocaine in a hotel room, and it was on videotape. Look it up online. They were better off with him as mayor than Bowser. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Tricia from Minnesota.
Hey, Tricia.
Okay, so, hi. I drive the bus in Minneapolis through all the places in Minneapolis, all the way through the town, right? And I see the homeless, right? And I noticed in the last couple weeks that it's a little more cleared out, but there's still, like, these people are on fentanyl and stuff, and they're, like, bent over, like, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I want Trump to keep going. I'm so proud that he, you know, went through this attack mode on Washington to clean that up. We need to take our cities back. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think it's all. I go through, Cedar Riverside, which everybody calls Little Mogadishu. All right.
Really?
And it's not even. It's there's also Little Earth Indian Reservation there.
Does that Muslim call to prayer wake you up in the middle of the night? Do they play like it on a speaker really loud?
Say it again.
Do they play that Muslim call to prayer like on speakers through the town? They do that 5 times a day.
I believe they do. But when I'm driving my bus, I do my route at 4 a.m. I pull out. I go through there, and my route is. Oh,
really you're a bus driver. You drive. I thought you rode the bus. You drive as school bus or a city bus?
No, I drive. Yep.
City bus.
Class B driver.
Is it a city bus or a school bus?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I mean, and I had to hit the silent alarm, but it's for the African American community in Minneapolis.
Okay. What's your first name?
Where they're mad.
What's your first name?
Say it.
What's your first name?
Trisha.
Oh, you're
Minnesota.
Okay, you're Trisha the bus driver. We got Richie the bus driver. Now we have Trisha the bus driver.
Right.
When I was a kid, my dad drove a city bus in Columbus, Ohio when I was a little kid.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got Trisha the bus driver.
Back when people generally got on the bus and they paid, I'm telling you that $1 or $2 that you put in to pay for your bus ride is everything. I mean, these are normal communers, all right? I'm driving.
Oh, you mean the money's important for them? You mean it's a lot of money for them?
Right. But I mean, people that work, like I'm dropping off people. I start at 4 a.m.
Wow.
at Mall of America, right? And then we go to the airport. A lot of people get off, and I'm so jolly with everybody. I'm like, thank you, and they say thank you so much.
That's
blah,
nice.
blah.
You're the opposite of Richie the bus driver.
Towards Brooklyn Center, middle Minneapolis. Can I have a courtesy ride? I mean, these people in the hood, right? Sure. I'm super nice. I hit the 5. The 5 button on the bus is a free ride, okay?
Okay.
And they're smoking pot on the bus. They're starting fights. I just hit a silent alarm.
So wait a minute. They smoke what? They smoke weed while you're driving, and so you got an alarm.
In the very back of the bus, when I do the articulated bus, which is 60 feet long.
Yeah.
All right. It's got a bend in the middle. It's 40 feet.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I know those buses.
The back side of the bus.
Yeah, those are huge.
Trailer, right?
Those are huge.
So those guys it's everybody that wants the free courtesy ride. Always, not all of them, but most of them, it ends up being a pain in the butt because they're loud, they're on the phone,
yeah.
Right away, they start arguing on the phone. Everybody around them is trying to go to work.
Well, listen. I'm gonna run, but call me again sometime. You're a good caller, Trisha the bus driver.
All right, good. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah, see, Richie the bus driver, Richie the bus driver is married though. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right, you missed your chance. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. It's Jogn from California.
Hey, what's up?
I just wanted to tell you what a beautiful Monday it is.
Yes.
It's much safer, more protective United States of America. And it is absolutely beautiful that he is starting off with the capital city, and I hope he decides to use it as a prototype and uses it all over wherever it is that's needed across this country.
That's right.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think it is?
We don't care.
What do you think it is with these Democrats that has them defending these criminals? I mean, it's very weird, isn't it?
I was watching the woman that was at the protest, and I hate to say this, but her Ebonics was making it extremely difficult to even understand what she was saying. It was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
They have nothing else. They really, really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see it, I see it more as they're trying to utilize a racial argument versus a criminal argument, or maybe perhaps they use both of them in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
But they have nothing else. And actually, I think they should come up with a new law that the parents should be sued if it's an underage person that ends up being convicted of a crime for all of the expenses associated with law
Well, you
enforcement.
you make a good point. I agree with that. And then you said the liberals are turning it into a racial issue. It's because they're racist, and I guess they think all the criminals are black or something. Because I didn't hear President Trump or Judge Jeanine or anyone or Cash say anything about the criminals being black, but the liberals all think they're black. They're racist.
I have no idea, but I do have to say this, that our new form of the new media, social media, makes it absolutely impossible for them not to have to cover things. There were live streamers who were out there covering the Navy shooting that just happened over the weekend.
Yeah, I know. I was watching. Listen, I got to run, but I appreciate the call. You're a good caller.
Have a great day.
All right, call me again sometime. We've had some pretty good callers so far. Thanks so much, guys, except that one guy. I want to talk about those of you that are Medicare recipients or will be soon. Did you know that millions and millions and millions of seniors are on the wrong Medicare plan? That's right. If you're on the wrong Medicare plan, you may not even know it. And that's where Chapter comes in, who's offering you free help with your Medicare. I'm going to give you the number in just a moment. It's also on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. And that's money and benefits that you could be missing out on every single year. You know, Chapter, you call the number 805-754-3033, 805-754-3033. You're going to get a real person on the phone, a real person, and they'll answer all your questions about Medicare. It'll just take a few minutes. Any questions you have, they'll go over every plan that's available. You know, there's over 24,000 Medicare plans in the country, and Chapter has access to all of them. They cover all 50 states, so no matter where you're located, they can help you, answer your questions, and find the plan that's right for you. You know, Chapter clients save an average of $1,100 a year on their Medicare. That's right. That means a lot of people are saving a boatload more than that, but the average saves $1,100 a year. And here's the best part. Everything is 100% free. There's no strings, no catches, and if you're on the right plan, they'll tell you that too. Open enrollment's going to be here before you know it, so give them a call. This is a very busy time of the year. You want to jump the line, call Chapter right now. So I'm going to give you the number. Make sure you have the right plan, save some money, take the stress out of all your Medicare, get your free Medicare help from Chapter. Call 805-754-3033, 805-754-3033. That's 805-754-3033. If you're on hold, stand by. I'm Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be right back. Hey, everyone. We're joined by Joe Thomas. You know Joe Thomas. He's with me on the radio all the time talking about annuities. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey there. You know, annuities are absolutely amazing. I tell you all the time, I've heard about annuities my whole life, and until I met you and you explained them to me, I didn't understand what they were and how great they are. For people that don't know anything about annuities, can you tell them what an annuity is and why they should have one?
So basically, you have car insurance for your car. You have home insurance for your home. Okay? You have life insurance for life. This is basically insurance for your money. It protects your money through an insurance company. So you can't lose money if you invest with the type of annuities that we provide.
When you say you can't lose money with an annuity, no matter what happens in the stock market could tank today or tomorrow, you're not going to lose any money. Why is that?
Because the insurance company protects your interest. It's an insurance product and not a securities product. So people don't understand the difference between directly investing in the market. You have the upside potential, unlimited, but you also have the unlimited risk potential if the market goes down. But with an annuity, it protects the downside where you can't lose any money. Now, the only way you can lose money, disclosure, is if you surrender an annuity early. Let's just talk about that. If you do cash it in early, well, you have a surrender charge. If you don't cash it in early, you don't have a surrender charge. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Now, another thing about annuities that I find absolutely amazing is how you have this guaranteed income stream in your retirement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So when people do retire, they have this thing called a 401k. And the problem with a 401k is that it basically doesn't give you anything to turn into income. It's an accumulator. You accumulate money. And then when you turn 65 or 66 or 67, they don't tell you how to get income. So what an annuity does is it converts that 401k into income. And then the income stream with an income rider provides income for the rest of your life as long as you live and your spouse's life.
Yeah, so when you retire, you have your 401k, you have two choices, right? You can cash it out and start eating up your principal, or you can take it, put it in an annuity, keep all that money, but have a revenue stream coming in every month.
Exactly. And the insurance company assumes your risk. The risk is that you live too long. The insurance company has to keep paying you. It's a contractual obligation that they have to keep paying you for life. Lifetime income.
That's right. Now, Joe Thomas offers free phone consultations, which you can take advantage of no matter where you are in the United States. And when you talk with Joe Thomas, he's going to put together a custom proposal just for you based on your situation, your goals. These are not cookie cutter, okay? This is very specific to you, and everyone's situation is different. Give Joe Thomas a call. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, JupiterJoe.com. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you'd like to call in, you can. If you're watching live, the number is pinned in the live stream. It is 888-465-2631. So we're talking about this great superhero team, that organization that President Trump has put together, and they're ridding our capital city of crime, right? I mean, there's a debate over that? How can you have a debate over ridding a city of crime, especially a tourist destination? You know, back in the 80s and early 90s here in Florida, in Miami, we had a big problem that it used to be, they don't do this anymore, but rental cars, this was in the 80s, and they ended this. I'm not sure if this went into the early 90s. It may have, but it was definitely the late 80s. If you rented a car in the state of Florida, rental car license plates all started with the letter Y. All started with the letter Y. I don't know why that is, but every rental car in Florida, the license plate started with the letter Y. And what happened is, in Miami, they had these roving gangs that would hang around the airport waiting for cars to follow and rob the people. And if they saw a rental car, which they knew with the letter Y on it, they knew they had money because they were in town to spend money on vacation. So, and this was, the 80s, you didn't have Apple Pay and stuff. So people had cash. So they'd rob them. They'd follow rental cars, and they'd rob them and carjack them and steal their money. So the state of Florida now, rental cars have regular license plate numbers like any other car. But that had a big impact, a big negative impact on tourism, right? Tourists were not coming to Miami for quite some time because there was an epidemic of tourists getting robbed, beaten, carjacked, and sometimes killed. And there's a similar impact in a city like Washington, D.C. It's not just the seat of our government, and important people from all over the world come there, right? All the embassies and everything are there and everything else. But it's a big tourist destination, and it's a pretty scary one that people are not going to. And one of the reasons Trump's doing this is because we have the 250th 4th of July celebration coming up next year. He wants it to be perfect for that. But I think the big turning point was the beating down of Big Balls, who risked his life to save his girlfriend from that rape gang. And so this is CNN. And, of course, their knee-jerk reaction is to disagree with whatever Trump says.
Sure. So this area is actually an internationally recognized dark sky area. And now from 15 miles away, you can see what looks like stadium.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is a different clip. Let me explain this one. Okay, I'm sorry. I got my liberal jerks mixed up. That's okay. This is a good one. So did any of you see my Alligator Alcatraz visit when I went to Alligator Alcatraz when it first opened up? Alligator Alcatraz is at the most remote spot in the Florida Everglades you can go to. The entire center of Florida is the swamp of the Florida Everglades. I live in South Florida, which is the East Coast, and then you got the West Coast, but most of it is just Everglades. And Alligator Alcatraz is so deep in the Everglades. I've never been that deep in the Everglades. In fact, it's not even on the, there's a main road called Alligator Alley that you take across the state from the east to the West Coast or from the West Coast to the East Coast. Alligator Alcatraz is not on that road. It's on a road called the Tamiami Trail, which was built in the 1920s. Tammy comes from Tampa, Florida, and Amy comes from Miami. It is not the main road. It is very backwater. It is very remote. And it is as far as I have ever been from civilization at a point in Florida. It's really remote. So CNN brought this liberal activist on who's concerned that stargazers are having a hard time watching the stars in the skies at night because of Alligator Alcatraz. I'm not kidding.
Sure. So this area is actually an internationally recognized dark sky area.
Now, this is complete BS. The road out there, it is a dark area. And if you watch my video, I went in the middle of the day. I think it was around 2 in the afternoon or so that I was driving out there. It's a 2-lane highway that doesn't have lights on it. You would not be going out there for anything at night. It is dangerous. You can't see on the road, and you wouldn't pull over on the side of the road because of the gators and the snakes. And there's even crocs out there, okay? And, we got all Florida Panthers, all kinds of things out there. But apparently they want us to believe stargazers are driving out there.
Sure. So this area is actually an internationally recognized dark sky area. And now from 15 miles away, you can see what looks like stadium lighting in the distance. This was filed with our court documents and heard during last week's hearings in court during expert testimony. That's important not just for humans who enjoy gazing at the stars in the night sky, but also because What
about the humans that enjoy not being raped and murdered by illegals? How about that? Can you stargazers have sympathy for them? We're supposed to have sympathy for those that are gazing from the stars, at the stars, not from the stars, but at the stars. How can she sit there with a straight face and make this argument? And how can the anchor not be cracking up and be like, who put this idiot on the air with me? And it's CNN, but this is even bad for CNN.
During expert testimony, that's important not just for humans who enjoy gazing at the stars in the night sky, but also because the endangered Florida panther is a nocturnal species. There are only about 200 left in the wild. This site is about 96% wetlands. And Everglades wetlands are directly connected to our water supply for millions of South Floridians. Goodness. So that's also critically important. And we've documented about 20 acres of new asphalt that's been laid on the site without any kind of environmental review. And actually inadequate stormwater treatment for that new asphalt. So there's potential for pollutants to run off into these pristine Everglades wetlands. So many concerns at this site. And actually the history of this very site where once a massive airport was proposed, it shows that we can do things better in this country if we study the impacts. The National Environmental Policy Act, the federal law we're suing under, came about after the battle to stop that airport in 1969.
Okay, now I know a little bit about Florida because I'm a Floridian. This is complete BS. Okay, the reason they were building an airport. You guys know why they were building an airport out in the middle of the Everglades? Back when the Concorde and stuff was new. It's really amazing when you fly now. This is crazy. Commercial jets fly slower now than they did in the 70s. Because I remember when the first couple times I would fly, and they were telling me that we were going like 700 miles an hour, 600 and something miles an hour, and now you're lucky if you're going 500 and something, right? But they thought back in the late 60s and in the early 70s that supersonic jets like the Concorde were going to be the new norm, and the Concorde and supersonic jets can break windows. So they were building, they started to build an airport in the middle of the Everglades to have a Miami airport out there for supersonic jets to be able to fly into the Everglades without breaking all the windows in Miami. And so they weren't worried about the environmental impact or light pollution or stargazers. And don't worry, the Panthers will be fine.
1970, Richard Nixon actually signed that law. And we can take a different course if we study actions. And the government did not study its actions here. And that's why we've brought it to the courts.
Yeah. All right. And another thing about the Everglades, they're laying asphalt at Alligator Alcatraz without an environmental approval. What, from this idiot, the Stargazers? The Florida Everglades. Do you know, she's talking about the pristine Everglades. It has oil wells in it. Not many people know this. Not too many. There's some oil wells not too far from Alligator Alcatraz in Collier County that were put there in the 1920s before the environmental whack jobs were on the scene. And they've been drilling oil for over 100 years in the Everglades, and I've never heard of a spill. And the Florida Everglades, don't buy all this crap about it being a beautiful, pristine place of nature. It's a terrible swamp that is very deadly, and it's a big waste of space, and it's filled with oil. It should be filled with oil wells so we could all be rich in Florida just off of our oil revenue. But anyway, I know that's a little off topic, but I saw the stupidity of the Stargazer, and I had to share. Now, if you're on hold, stand by. I want to go through some more of the liberals and their defense of criminal activity. But when after President Trump's press conference, if you look at Dana Bash here on CNN, I don't even hardly recognize her. She is in such shock and having such a meltdown, she can't even hardly broadcast. And you can tell she's having an anxiety attack because Trump is gaining more and more popularity every time he speaks. I mean, this country is so excited to have a real man back as president who has our back, who's protecting Americans, who's protecting the country and making it a safe place. And Dana Bash, that just is driving her nuts.
I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in D.C. was January 6th.
Really? Tell that to Big Balls, right?
I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in D.C. was January 6th. And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump. And it included the people who were hurt, included members of law enforcement.
Well, is she talking about those people that were walking through the velvet ropes on the carpet in line in the Capitol? Remember those people? Is that what she's talking about? That was the most violent day. Everything with these people is always going to go back to January 6th. It's always going to go back to January 6th with these people. And that's just something that as conservative, as MAGA, we're going to have to deal with. But, they've gone to the well with that nonsense so many times. I just think it's just, I think it just, people don't even hear it anymore. I think everybody just, don't you guys agree that people just tune that out? I agree. So one of the things that President Trump did, and we're going to see more of this, he went through briefly in his press conference today some of the people that they've arrested already because they started the cleanup last night. And one of them had murdered multiple people and was free. Can you believe this? And over here on CNN, they're like, oh, these aren't really bad criminals that they picked up.
In the briefing, they gave us a packet of information to show us some of the arrests that were made over the weekend as this starting to ramp up or increase in federal law enforcement took place. And they were fairly low-level criminals. It was
Oh, really? The low-level criminals? The guy that is a multiple murderer? Is that low-level? Where is her scale beginning? Where does her scale begin?
This starting to ramp up or increase in federal law enforcement took place, and they were fairly low-level criminals. It was somebody with possession or a DUI at one point, and there were only 5 of them, I believe, listed in this packet. So it's unclear. He's talking about this major escalation in violent crime, but that is not.
Yeah, ABC News, the anchor got jumped. They had a murder outside ABC News, your colleagues. Brian Glenn in the press conference that this woman was sitting in, I saw her there. This woman was sitting next to Brian Glenn in the press conference. I saw him talking to her before the press conference, yucking it up. And I was wondering, who's he talking to? Does Marjorie Taylor Greene know they were yucking it up together? I don't know, maybe. But, and Brian Glenn sat next to her and said that he was mugged at gunpoint. And she's saying, oh, they arrested some drunks.
And they were fairly low-level criminals. It was somebody with possession or a DUI at one point. And there were only 5 of them, I believe, listed in this packet. So it's unclear. He's talking about this major escalation in violent crime, but that is not quite clear from the packet of information that he gave us here.
I mean, come on. More gaslighting. I got to tell you. But I also got to tell you about Dr. Philip Appleton and his laser wave pain treatment, which is absolutely amazing. Dr. Appleton and his laser wave pain treatment, what it does is it repairs the damage in your body that's causing you the pain. And it works on every type of pain I've ever heard of. But another thing it works for is if you have a pain from a car accident or a slip and fall, it treats those kind of pains as well. And it works. The first pain he rid me of was my over 30 years of suffering with my knee pain. And that was caused by a car accident I was in many years ago. I was a passenger in a car. And when you get into a car accident, you tense up. Unless you're drunk like these DUI people. But you tense up, and that's why you get all of these injuries. Whiplash, neck injuries, knee injuries, all kinds of things. And the laser wave pain treatment treats injuries that are car accident related. And if you get in there before the first 2 weeks, your auto insurance will cover that treatment for that pain. But if you've been in any other type of accident, a slip, a fall, if you hurt yourself at home, all the pains related to that, the laser treatment works too. Give Dr. Appleton a call. Remember, appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. And I stress this a lot. We have had listeners travel from all over the United States to see Dr. Appleton because it works. And there's no surgery, no shots, no injections, no medication. It's 100% painless. And Dr. Appleton performs all the laser treatments himself. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. That's 954-973-0710. If you have x-rays or scans, bring them with you. Yeah, that's right. And his website is AppletonCairo.com. That's AppletonCairo.com. We'll be right back.
Hear ye, hear ye. Tom Laporta here from Laporta Roofing. Floridians, take note. Ron DeSantis and the state of Florida have allocated $280 million for the 25-26 fiscal year to fund new grants under My Safe Florida Home program. This grant is up to $10,000 when you spend $15,000 or more on your project. This may include roofing and wind mitigation systems. Go online at mysafefloridahome.com and get approved before the money is gone. If you need help, please call me, Tom Laporta, 954-604-4602, or find us at laportaroofing.com. It's simple. When you spend $1, the state matches $2 up to $10,000. They send you a check. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it is. So again, call us at 954-604-4602 or find us at laportaroofing.com.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian. If you're on hold, stand by. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. This really, a lot of people like to say, okay, that nothing these leftists do, nothing they say, none of it surprises me. But I do get surprised. When I see the President of the United States come out and say that he is ridding a city of crime, that a city that's not safe to walk the streets in, that he is going to make it safe to walk the streets again in. To me, that's a good thing. Right? To me, that's a universally good thing. Right? Well, not to CNN. Listen to this guy.
Why is this issue, and again, you're going to get into the fact check of what is wrong about his figures or not, but why is this the top of the President of the United States agenda today? And I think that's an important question for us to think about as we think about everything that's on his plate. Why is taking over law enforcement in the District of Columbia? Now, he made the argument as to why.
See, why is taking, he didn't complete his thought, but he's like, why is he taking over law enforcement? Well, first of all, D.C. is under federal control all the time, but it's an emergency. It is not safe to walk the streets, Reporters are being mugged at gunpoint. Female reporters are being jumped. Okay? People are being murdered outside of major networks. Okay? It is a crisis and an emergency. And the police chief that's running the joint, I saw her standing next to Mayor Bowser, and they got like 3 check marks off the DEI didn't earn it checklist that she applies for. I mean, she's a minority. I think she's gay. And she's a woman. Okay, all right, 3 check marks. Hire her. The police department are not doing their job. That's why you got to go in as the president. Oh, I hit the wrong button and lost my audio here. That's why the president has to go in and take it over, because they're not doing their darn job. Let me pull this up again because I want to listen to the rest of what this idiot has to say.
Why is this issue, and again, you're going to get into the fact check of what is wrong about his figures or not, but why is this the top of the President of the United States agenda today?
What an idiot.
And I think that's an important question for us to think about as we think about everything that's on his plate. Why is taking over law enforcement in the District of Columbia? Now, he made the argument as to why, and that it's a capital city, and that the way he sees it is that it is crime-ridden and needs to be changed. But still, why is the President of the United States putting that front and center? So that's a question I sort of...
Because it's the city that is the seat of the United States government. It's the city in which he lives. And the local government has failed. Is this guy for real?
Try to think about as we put this into perspective. But then, Dana, as you were noting, yes, this is a dramatic moment, but it also feels to me like dipping into a well that President Trump has gone to time and time again in the first term and this term. The tactics here may be more amped up and dramatic, but the going after this city or other cities is sort of crime-ridden. This was the heart of many of the campaigns and political agenda that Trump puts before voters. And so to me, I see him dipping back into a well of something he feels is a strong suit and where he thinks he has stronger footing the way he does.
Yeah, being a political guy. I'd like to see these fake news reporters, I'd like to see them walk the streets of D.C. at night with nothing but an iPhone to record. Now, we may never see the footage because the iPhone might get stolen. But if it's such a safe city, walk the streets in the middle of the night where there aren't police on patrol. Let's see how safe it is and how wrong the president is. How about that, CNN? Sounds like a good investigative story. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Brian. This is Nick out of Baltimore.
Oh, hey, Nick. What's up?
I wanted to just talk about what's going on here, and I'm happy that the president's doing all of this. I had my life threatened back when I was working, and everybody knows I'm disabled. I've been disabled from birth, and I worked for 37 years, and I got mugged in downtown Baltimore a couple of times. One time on the way to the doctor's, I had to cancel my doctor's appointment, went right back to work. And then the other time I was going to my second and third job, and I had my life threatened on a city bus because I wasn't driving at the time. And the thing is, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And what I want to say to you is, I hope he takes this place over too. And if it takes collapsing Baltimore into the national capital region, and they take Baltimore over, fine. I want Baltimore straightened out before Detroit's straightened out, because we're 41 miles from the capital. And we are an important city, no matter what anybody thinks. I mean, Steve Kane doesn't care about Baltimore, but the point is, this is a big city, it's a port city, and it's an important city. There's a lot of medical institutions here, and a lot of good people here. We pay high-dollar taxes, and we get nothing for it. And I'm sick and tired of these people who call in, these seminar callers with their racist BS, who sit there on the dole that you and I are paying for, and your wife's paying for, and Emily's paying for, and we're all paying for, and they do nothing. And you can tell I'm really pissed right now, because I've been through hell in my life, and I'm sick and tired of hearing this crap all the time. They've got to straighten this place out, because this is our country, not theirs.
Well, when the Democrats have always been wrong on everything, but when did they become advocates for criminals like this? That's this. It's not totally new.
Since the Clintons and since Obama.
Yep.
Obama divided this nation. I'm sorry, I'm not a racist, but when that guy got in, I saw the change at work because I got screwed over at work many times. And now I'm friends with a lot of people. They're very decent people where I worked at Social Security downtown here. But the point I'm making is there was a racial divide that developed, a schism that developed, and that's exactly when Barack Obama got in. And he could have been the greatest president ever, but he decided to split everybody up. And I'm telling you, he is the Manchurian candidate. Mm-hmm. And I won't go any further than that.
Or maybe the Mecca Medina candidate, to be more accurate. But yeah,
that's exactly right.
I don't think. Anyone
Sorry
that's
about my tirade here.
No. I mean, anyone who is advocating against what President Trump's doing, for the most, there's no way they or a loved one could have been a victim. When you're a victim of a crime, or you have a family member that is, it is terrifying. It's terrifying.
I was commuting from one job to the next. It was a weekend, and I had my life threatened, and I had my paycheck on me. I mean, I cashed my paycheck because I had to commute back and forth. But I had enough money. But the point is that, here's a guy who's on drugs. Give me my $50, or I'll, I shoved him out. Don't tell me how I don't know how I did it. I shoved him out of the way, and I got out of there. And then when I got to my job, I said, Jesus, I could have been killed.
Yeah, that's right.
The adrenaline goes, and I'm telling you, that's what happened. I mean, I shoved this guy out of the way, and I may have said something to him. I don't know.
You're lucky to be alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Nick.
Well,
I mean, these appreciate the call.
Hey, thanks for the show, man.
All right, take care. If you're on hold, hang in there because there's more I want to share. I mean, this knee-jerk disagreeing with everything Trump. This is this idiot, Nicole Wallace, she says she's a Republican. She worked for John McCain on MSNBC today.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper.
Oh, no, is this Chris? Oh, no, that's not, that's Chris Jansing. Yeah, it's Chris Jansing, not the other one. That's Chris Jansing. She's no better.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. Oh. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter.
I love these people that do these TV interviews, and they're surrounded by books, so you know that they're well-read. He's read all these books. Well, he's reading whatever he's reading. He's reading the wrong books if you listen to this jerk.
I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. There's an ongoing argument that he's having with the questions around criminal justice reform and police reform.
What an idiot. See, this is one of these. He's a black racist. He's assuming that all the criminals are black. I didn't hear President Trump or Judge Jeanine or Pam Bondi or Kash Patel, who's not white, by the way, or Pete Hegseth today say anything about non-white people, right? But this guy, he thinks all criminals are black. Racist.
It's interesting that he really doesn't really care about what's actually happening in D.C. on a certain level, because he's not trying to get at the underlying root causes. He's not looking at examples of how to address
the underlying root cause. He's not looking at the underlying root cause of violent crime. So what's the underlying root cause of that gang of thugs that wanted to rape Big Balls' girlfriend? The root cause was they wanted to have sex with her. That was the root cause. What do you do about that? The other root cause is liberalism. They know that if they commit a violent crime, they're going to be home for dinner, and they're not going to do any time with the liberal judges giving them probation. That's the root cause, stupid. Is that in one of those books?
Rising crime rates that doesn't require a form of policing that leads to increased incarcerality and the like. Let's look at what's going on in Baltimore. Let's look at what's happening actually in places like Baltimore and Chicago, right? So part of what we have to do is to understand. and Oakland. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics. And
see, he's racially stereotyping the criminals as all black. Is this guy not a black racist? He doesn't like black people. He thinks black people are all the criminals? It seems like some racial stereotyping going on by this guy.
And within the context of his effort to get Epstein off the front pages. I understand David's point. But when we try to treat this as a rational response, then we lose sight of the actual politics that's being played here. And
there's no politics. President Trump wants people to be able to walk the streets of Washington, D.C. without being robbed, raped, murdered, or assaulted, or all of the above. He wants members of the press to be able to go to the White House for a press briefing and not be mugged at gunpoint like Brian Glenn on the way there. Or some guys come to town taking a fancy job at Doge. He's out on date night and he's beaten to a pulp protecting his girlfriend from a rape gang. People shouldn't have to do that. And there's no underlying cause that needs to be, which the underlying cause is liberals who let criminals get away with crime.
Actually trying to give his base red meat to get them off of the Epstein story, and it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C. He's going to undermine the democratic process in the district. And so I understand what David is trying to say, but we need to be clear about what Donald Trump is doing.
What a jerk. What a terrible person. You know, this guy is such a race baiter. And I mean, I want you to look at the crowd. I've never seen the press brief. President Trump was talking about it, and I saw this. I've never seen so many people in the White House press briefing room as were there today. I mean, they were packed in. And I think one of the reasons it was so packed is because the media, they work in D.C., so they know how bad it is. So this was almost like a local community city council meeting because these people, many of them themselves, we're learning have been victimized by these criminals that President Trump wants to rid Washington, D.C. of. So I think they were there not for the big news scoop. I think there are a lot of people who live there that want the crime over because it's dangerous for them, right? Isn't that what it kind of seemed like to you? But these meltdowns by the liberals, look at this. This is CNN again. Remember, the president just said he's going to rid D.C. of violent criminals. This is Blitzer's show on CNN.
Reaction from D.C. council members.
We are, Pamela and Wolf. This coming into CNN from Council Member Charles Allen of the 6th Ward in D.C. His post is, quote, the president taking over local control of MPD and putting the U.S. military onto the streets of D.C. under the guise of public safety is wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for our city and the safety of all of our residents. He's the first city council member to react to this.
You know, if a city council member had a lick of sense, they'd be welcoming this. But they can't because they cannot agree with anything Trump says. But a halfway decent city councilman would say, oh, now my constituents are now safe. Thank you, Mr. President. You know, in my neighborhood, okay, we don't tolerate crime. I've told this story before. I'll tell you again. This was crazy to me. This was like 10 years ago. I'm in my living room. It's the middle of the day, and my front window's open, and I saw two kids stole the bicycle from the kid across the street. I called the police. I knew the kid. He's grown up now. It's been a long time. He's grown up, and the family doesn't live there anymore. And I called the police. A deputy showed up within, 5 minutes, probably less. I couldn't believe it. And I felt kind of crazy that the police showed up so quick. And I told him what happened, and he went to the house. The kid across the street, he didn't even know his bike was stolen, right? And when you're a kid, your bike's important. So I'm talking to the cop, and he gets a call on his radio. He says, oh, an officer at a park down the street, they got him. They said, do you remember what he looks like? I said, yeah. They said, could you identify him? I said, yeah. So we said, okay. He says, let me drive you. over to the park. So I get in the car with the deputy. It's me and the kid who got his bike stolen. He was going to identify the bike, and I was going to identify the thief that rode away on the stolen bike. So we go over there. There were 5 police cars there, so a total of 6 police cruisers. This is in my neighborhood, for a stolen bicycle. And first off, you might think, well, that sounds ridiculous. It's not, because when you live in a nice neighborhood with good, and I don't live in the fanciest of neighborhoods, but when you live in a neighborhood with good people, we don't tolerate crime. And a minor crime like a bicycle getting stolen, which it's a big deal if it's your bike that gets stolen, you know, it's such we have zero tolerance for crime in my neighborhood, that 6 police cruisers showed up, including a sergeant. And I identified, they had a few kids there. He said, which one took the bike? I said, that one. And so, okay. So then a BMW SUV pulls up. Wasn't police, it was civilian. And a woman gets out, and she's screaming. And she's the mother of the kid who stole the bike. And she was screaming and cussing at him. And she, I mean, what are you doing? You know, I mean, the kid was he was so afraid of his mother. I think he wanted the cops to take him off to juvenile detention as opposed to go home with his mom. She was so mad. And they did release him into his mother's custody. I bet he didn't steal a bike again. And he gave the kid got his bike back. But that's what you have when you're in a neighborhood of decent people, right? We don't tolerate crime. The police crack down on even the most minor of crimes. There's zero tolerance. And the parents of the teenagers in my neighborhood kick their kids' butt when they do crime. In D.C., you heard President Trump. He says they're spitting on the cops and they're told to do nothing. He says, you spit, we hit. That's the new order. The D.C. police, they can't enforce the laws. The police chiefs tell them don't enforce the laws. The mayor and the city council, they're attacking President Trump because they're going to be arresting criminals tonight again, right? I mean, this is insanity. And then you have the media who are out there excusing crime too. And I live in a neighborhood that we have I don't know what our crime rate is, but it's incredibly low. And it's incredibly low because we have zero tolerance for the most minor crimes like the one I just told you. I know it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's how my neighborhood is. Is that how your neighborhood is? If you live in a neighborhood of decent people, that's how it is. But when you're in these liberal cities, liberals, and Nick from Baltimore is right about Obama. The Obama generation, we have this new era in government where they care about foreigners, not Americans. They care about South Americans, not United States of Americans. They care about criminals, not their rape victims, not their murder victims. They care about the criminals and their rights and the root. Who cares about the root causes when there's a guy in the bus dead with a hole in his chest that some teenager put in there? Who cares about the root cause? The root cause is he needs to find the route to prison. Okay, the next bus is taking you to prison for life. You just shot someone on the bus. But that's not what's happening in Washington. That's what Judge Janine, that's why she was so upset. She said, but Pam Bondi says, we don't care about these liberal judges. We're still going to charge them, and we're going to make public and let you and the media know every day, follow these criminals and find out what these leftists are doing, because most Americans agree with Trump and what he's doing. Only a very small handful of liberal lunatics, like these dummies that I played some of these clips from, are advocating for criminals. This is nuts. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. This is the most pro-Donald Trump place you'll find anywhere. If you'd like to support my content, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description of the episode. And if you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions to my podcast episodes, and you get access to a lot of other exclusive content. There's a link in the description of the video. The direct website address is patreon.com/realbriancraigshow, patreon.com Real Brian Craig Show. And also a big special going on at MyPillow right now. Free shipping site-wide on all orders of $100 or more. So if you order $100 in merchandise or more, it's free shipping on the whole order at MyPillow.com with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, on top of the special, right? So you get the special deal on the MyPillow product. You get all those discounts plus free shipping on orders $100 or more with my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at MyPillow.com. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you next time, all right? Take care. Make sure you subscribe.